Hey crafters, it's Christy over at Crafty Christy's Creations, and this is the assembly video for the layered bee card. Okay, here is a sample that says be happy, and the one we're gonna make today says happy birthday. And as you can see, there's a ton of dimension in this card. We've got 4 layers here in the honeycomb, and then I've used some pop dots on the wings here and then glued the edges to give the bee some dimension as well. So let me go ahead and show you how we put this together. This is a 5x7 card, and then the inside will be blank for you to do stamping, sketch pen, coil fill, you know, kind of whatever you want to put on the inside. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to put together the front. So you can see I've got here my card base. I've got the different layers cut out and already assembled kind of in the order that they're gonna be. And then over here I've got all of my my bee and my words and everything. So we can go ahead and get started by making our bee and our words. So this is your base of your bee. There are some score lines here to help you see where to put the black stripes. And then on the top there are 2 score lines to show you where to place the antennas. And then there's a tiny little dash mark here that's gonna show you where to put the tip of the wings to put that on there. So let's go ahead and get started with this piece. And I'm just using my precision glue tip, and I'm gonna go ahead, I've already laid out my pieces here so that they will go the right direction on my bee. So I'm just gonna put a couple little dots of glue in between the score marks here that are going to show me where to put each little stripe. So I'm just putting some tiny drops of glue there for that, and then I can go ahead and start adding my little black pieces to make the stripes. And those will line up nice and flush on the edges, so you can always pick this up if you need to, give it a little tap to really get that in the correct placement. And then when this is in the correct spot, those score lines should be covered up. This will just match up perfectly right on those score lines. And then you just kind of hold it there for a second to get it to dry in place. Okay, so there is the stripes on the bee. It's starting to come along. And then we can go ahead and put together the wings. So on my example here, what I did was put a pop dot at the tip here and then glued down the edges. It gives it a little bit of dimension and some shadow to make it look more 3-dimensional. You have that option, or you can always just glue it down flat if you would like to do that as well. So for this one, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and glue this one flat. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue in these larger spots here on the edge. And then I'm just gonna come out to the tips here and then just kind of put a couple spots here and there real light. You do not have to put glue on every inch of this cardstock. A couple little spots of glue will hold it in place just fine. You just want to make sure, you know, you kind of have some glue on each edge to help hold it in place. All right, and then these will line up perfectly. So I'm going to start by aligning the tip. There's a bit of a triangle here at the top. I'm going to get that aligned, and then everything else should just fall right into place. And then since we're using that liquid glue, you want to give everything kind of a second to really adhere into place. The other thing you could do with this, I think would look really cute, is if you used vellum instead of white. That would probably give it a really nice, more realistic look of a wing. All right, and then for this, again, I'm gonna look for that tiny little notch that's right here, and that is just to help you position the point of your wings right there. And then if you look at where they're going to fit, the tip should match up with that score mark. You can see how much of your wings are actually going to be on the bee. So I'm gonna flip this over and I'm gonna put glue all up and down this area right here. I'm gonna let the rest of it hang off. This should be enough to get it secured. I'm just putting a good amount of glue right there. And then again, I'm gonna find that little tap, that little dash mark. And then I'm just gonna line the tip up there. That's to help you get it centered on your bee, and so that the wings look nice and centered on there. And I'm just gonna hold that in place for a second. So again, we've only put glue kind of right here in the middle. Okay, that looks pretty good. And it appears that I have misplaced my antennas. So I will have to go back and put those on, but for those, you're just gonna put a little bit of glue in between those score lines and then just put those little antenna on there. And then we'll set that aside. And then next I'm gonna bring over the happy birthday. So I've got the shadow on this one cut out in black, and then I've got the words cut out in white. And then with this, everything is just gonna get centered inside your word. So let me show you with this birthday what I mean. So you should have a nice border around for that shadow. Just kind of line it up in place. You'll have a good little border all the way around it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with this bigger piece. I'm just gonna put a couple small dots of glue around it, and you wanna make sure you're getting kind of all the little, a little bit of glue on kind of the little tips to make sure those are stuck down. Couple little dots of glue. And if we miss any areas, we can always go back and add more glue to it later if we need to. So again, I just put a couple little dots of glue throughout the entire word. And I'm just gonna flip it over and eyeball it on here. I'm gonna just start with the Y and eyeball where that should be so that everything is nice and centered on there. And once I've got that where I want it, I'm gonna go ahead and press that down. And then while I'm holding that in place, I'm gonna just kind of let go of everything else and then just lightly tap on it to help it lay down in the correct place. You may need to just kind of maneuver things around a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then for this, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little dot right there. That's about the center to put the eye, to dot my eye. Go ahead and drop that on there. If you have a pick-me-up tool or something to help you work with these small pieces, that would be a great option. Okay, that's in place, and then we're gonna do the same thing with our letter B. I'm just gonna put a couple of drops of glue on here. And it doesn't take a lot of glue to hold it in place. I've got a few little dots of glue, and I'm gonna try to kind of line up the edge of my B and make sure I have a lovely shadow all the way around it. And then once I've got it kind of where I want, I'm gonna go ahead and press it down and kind of hold it there for a second. All right, so there's birthday, and now we're gonna do the same thing with happy. So I'm gonna add some glue to my H. And then for these, in case you're wondering, the skinnier side goes on the left side. I'm just gonna try to hover that on there. Once I've got it in a good place, it should be nice and centered. Go ahead and press that down. And then we'll just continue on with the rest of the words the same way. Okay, so there's my happy birthday. That's all done. We've got our B put together. I'm going to set that aside. And then we've got, the next thing is our layers. And so you've got your base layer, which is the back. And then you've got your 4 different layers that are going to go on top. So to help you do this, all of these layers, all of the edges on the outsides are going to be flush. So that's how you can help kind of line everything up. All of your outside lines are going to be flush all the way around the outside, so it'll be flush on this piece here. So I kind of think I'm going to work in reverse this time. So I'm just going to grab my top 2 layers. This one is really, really skinny, and I found that it was too skinny to be adding any foam squares to it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some glue on here and glue it down. So again, I'm just gonna put some glue kind of in all the little corners where things connect. And you need to kind of do this a little bit quickly so that the glue doesn't dry before you get it all glued. But I'm just putting glue in and I'm making sure I'm really getting it kind of up in these corners where it's going to be flush on the next layer. And then just a little dot of glue in all of my little corners here. You do not need to line this entire design in glue. So just trying to work rather quickly, but putting little dots of glue in the corners, kind of where the honeycombs meet. Okay, looks like I got them all. Oh, this one right here. All right, I've got a little bit of glue on the entire design. So now I'm gonna go ahead and attach. Like I said, the edges are going to be flush against each other. So I'm gonna start at the bottom and I'm going to line my bottoms and my sides. So, and it should kind of just be centered. So I'm just gonna line my bottom and my side, and I'm just focusing on this one little corner right here. Once I've got that into place, I should be able to just kind of hold it, wiggle it around a little bit to get those edges where they need to be. And once you've got it kind of done on one side, you should be able to just lay the entire design down and it should just all fall right into place. And when you flip it over, you can see I'm a little off on the edges, so I can go ahead and just scoot those just ever so slightly. They should not really be overlapping. They should be flush all the way around. So you might just need to kind of scoot things over a little bit. To make those edges nice and flush. Okay, and I'm just gonna press that down. And there is our first layers added together. And then now we're gonna take this layer and add it to the next thicker layer, which is this kind of mustardy green, yellow color. So again, my sides are gonna line up nice and flush on the edges, and then everything else should just kind of fall into place. So I'm just gonna set that aside. I'm gonna flip this one over, and for this layer, I am gonna go ahead and use some foam squares. So what I did, I've got these little foam squares that I picked up from the Dollar Tree, and I've just cut them in half. So they're even smaller, so they will work well on this little, these small surfaces. And I am literally going to be putting these kind of on every little corner. So I'm just gonna go run through this and show you where all I'm gonna be adding these foam squares, and then I'm gonna tape the tape off and then get it added to the next layer here. And then when I think I've got enough on there, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over, and I'm gonna test it and see when I press down if there's any spots that feel flimsy. And if there are areas that feel flimsy, then I'm gonna go ahead and add another foam square to that area. And really, I think the only places that are maybe flimsy is just this spot right here on the corner. And I think the rest of the design feels pretty good. So it's just this corner here that feels a little flimsy. So I'm gonna add another foam square right there. And the rest of it felt pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and peel off all the pieces and get it stuck down. Okay, this piece here is ready to go, and I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over Again, I'm gonna pull this one in, we're gonna line up the bottom edges, and then we're gonna go ahead and lay it flat. So I'm just gonna start over on this edge here. And I'm just gonna line up my bottoms. Make sure those are nice and flush, and then I'm lining up kind of this little edge over here and making sure that is flush as well. And then lining up those edges, and once you've got that all lined up and it looks correct, you know, you can always just kind of pull them up and check it if you need to. But once you've got those correct, go ahead and just kind of start, lay that down, and then go through and just press so that all of the foam squares are pressed down. And pay special attention around the edges. You want to make sure those are nice and secure so the edges look nice and crisp. And then just a word about using the foam squares. Some of these, when you hold it up, you'll be able to see them. So when you're placing them, you want to make sure you're kind of placing them towards the center of your lines so that way they're somewhat hidden. So now we're going to go ahead and flip this one over. Again, we're going to add some foam squares to that, and then we're going to apply it to this layer here. And now I've got a lot bigger pieces here. The other thing I can do, I've got this roll, and I can cut some chunks out of this. I can split this in half, and I've taken some and I've kind of cut it in half here, and then I can just cut these even smaller to make them bigger than, they're skinnier but longer pieces than using the foam. So I can come through and add these, and I am also thinking where I'm placing these compared to where the last layer was placed. I want to make sure I have dimension in a way in different areas in a way. So propping up different areas of the design is going to help give shadows in different areas on the different layers. So I've got this, I also got this from the Dollar Tree, and this is just, I'm not quite sure, maybe 1/8 of an inch foam tape, and I'm just gonna cut this in half to make me some long, skinnier pieces. This doesn't cut quite as nicely as those squares do, but I can cut myself some longer pieces. And again, I'm trying to layer this kind of in the middle. In the middle of the sections, so that way, cut it that direction, and then we can cut it in half. So layering it in the center, again, that makes it so those pieces are hidden better. And then we're just adding shadows in a different direction. So if you didn't want to go to the trouble of using these longer pieces, you can certainly just stick with your foam squares and just place them in different areas. I just wanted to show you another option to using the foam squares. You can also do that, but you've got the foam squares here you can use as well. And I'm just gonna be placing these in, like I said, in a different direction. These areas are not supported on my other layers. Okay, and then we can go ahead and flip this over and give it a test too. Make sure that we feel like we've got good support everywhere. That does feel good. Let's go ahead and peel off all the backings. All right, we've got all the tape pieces off. So again, I'm gonna flip this over. I'm gonna line up my bottom edges here. And then we'll go ahead and get it laid on there. So again, the bottom should be flush and your sides should be flush. So I'm just looking at this corner here and I want that bottom and side to be flush on there. And when that looks good, we'll go ahead and look over at this corner and see that our bottom and sides are flush there as well. And then we can go ahead, lay it on there and start pressing down all of our sides. And you can see by adding that variation to where we put some of those pieces in the layers has really helped make this piece a lot more stable because we put the different layer foam dots in different places. So that makes it a lot more stable and more sturdy. And now what we can do with this one, we're gonna go ahead and add you can either pop this layer up as well, or you can go ahead and glue this one down onto your base here. And then again with this one, all of the edges are going to be flush side to side. So you can decide if you want to pop this one up as well, or if you want to go ahead and glue it down. I'm going to pop this one up as well, and I'm just going to continue to use my foam squares, and this time I'm just going to use the pre-cut regular sized foam squares. And again, I am placing these in what I'm hoping is a different position than I had placed the last layers to add some extra depth in different spots. Okay, let's flip this one over, see how that feels. And that feels pretty sturdy all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and peel these pieces off and then we'll get it attached to this layer here. Okay, we've got them all peeled off. So again, we're going to pull this in here and all of our edges should line up. So I'm just going to start in this corner here and just lay down my edges. They should all line up nicely. The other thing you can do is just stand it up, grab your edges, and they should all stand nice. If you're good side to side, and then you can go ahead and just press it down. All right, that is your honeycomb shape. I'm gonna use some mono permanent adhesive by Tombow. And this is just my tape runner. I'm gonna put on the back of this to attach it to my card base. So I'm just gonna throw a couple lines on here. I'm trying not to press down too hard. And it does not take a lot of this to get it to stick. So I've got that on here, and now to put it onto my card base, you're gonna go ahead and center it on here. So there should still be a little thin white line all the way around. So I'm just gonna try to eyeball this on here. With this adhesive that I have, you get one shot at it. And as you can see, if you don't get it the first time, you kind of get this. So you get one shot at getting it in the right place. So you want to just make sure that you're really confident where you're putting it before you lay it down. So I'm just kind of hovering it on there. I think that looks pretty good right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just press that on. Okay, so there is our front, and then like I said, the inside of your card looks like this. So the other thing you can do is come in here and just really press it from this side to make sure that all of that is adhered to the actual card base. And there's the inside of your card, okay? And then on the front here, now is where you've got just your little pieces here, and you can just put these wherever you want. On this one, you can see here I put the bee down on the bottom and the bee happy like that. You can decide if you want your bee maybe up here Maybe you want your bee in the center and your happy birthday, you know. This part is kind of for you to design however you would like. And then to attach these on here, I think I like it kind of I think this one I'm gonna do like this, okay? So now to do this, I'm looking at where my bee is touching, and I wanna kind of be mindful of that. You want to bridge it so that at least 2 spots on your words and on your bee are touching the honeycomb, so you have somewhere to adhere it to. So then just kind of being eyeballing where I want it. And this is also a good thing if you've got some foam pieces that are showing, you know, you can use your bee and your words to help cover that up if you need to. But I think if I'm gonna put it right here, so I'm just kind of being mindful of what is touching. So I'm just gonna put some glue on this bottom part here and on the top part of the head there. So I'm just gonna flip this over. I'm gonna put some glue here and some glue down at the bottom. Just a little bit of liquid glue, and then I'm gonna go back to kind of where I thought that should be, where our bee should be. And then I'm just gonna hold that down there. And you can go ahead if you want to glue down the wings. I don't think that's necessary. They're attached really well there. So I'm just gonna let those flap. And then with my happy and then birthday, again, I'm gonna try to find some places where it's bridging. Even if the ends of your words are hanging off, that's fine. As long as you have, you know, at least 2 good areas where it's bridging the words, you'll be fine. So with that there, I think I want to do, I think I like that. Maybe we'll go, I kind of like the H and the B in the middle of the word. So I'm going to kind of put some glue on the H and the P and then on the E over here. So I'll put some glue here on the A and the P, and then the E is on the end to help hold that in place. And then my H and my B are just gonna kind of hover out in the center of those honeycombs. And then I'm just gonna hold those down to let them glue for a second. And as you saw, I did not put a lot of glue on that. It doesn't take much. And then I'm gonna have the B hang off, so I'm gonna put some glue kind of right through the center of the A and the Y. And then kind of right here in the middle of the RTHI. So kind of the top center here of the IRTH. And then kind of in the Y on the end there. So I just got a little line of glue there, and we're just gonna line that back up. We're gonna let that B hang out. And glue that down. And there is the card. Again, I'm gonna have to find the little antennas to put on there. But now there is our completed card. Again, this is a 5x7 card. And there you have it. So you've got, the file comes with the Be Happy and Happy Birthday options. And you can see I did one with white, with a white shadow and black lettering, and then the white on the honeycomb, and the other one with the black shadow and the black honeycomb with the white words. Just to kind of give you different options. It gives it a very different look depending on how that goes.